Well, thanks everyone. Good evening and welcome to Advance Arlington's inaugural program for the 2024-2025 program year. And if you didn't know it, it's debate season. And nobody does it better than Advance Arlington. We are so pleased to welcome you, our in-person audience, and of course, our friends joining via Zoom. Welcome everybody to the fall edition of Quiz the Candidates. For those who don't know me, my name is Devanshi Patel, and I'm a proud board member and the program committee chair for Advance Arlington. Advance Arlington provides the most nonpartisan and agenda-free debate space for local races, and I guarantee you that tonight will be no different. You will hear directly from the candidates seeking your vote for county and school board. And during this evening's extended session, you will have the opportunity to advance, get it? Advance your issues that matter the most to you here in Arlington. A couple of housekeeping matters before we start the program. First, we would like to thank our amazing sponsors. We're honored to recognize our sustaining sponsors, Strategic Analysis, Arlington Food Assistance Center, Jean Broyhill, Ed and Anita Nolan, the Italian Stores Tremonti family, and the Arlington Community Foundation. Thank you all for your tremendous generosity. And we also want to thank all of those who supported our 70th anniversary celebration in June, and to all of you who have renewed your membership for Advance Arlington. We're also excited to preview our next month's program, which is called Governing in the 21st Century, Are Local Governments in Sync with Their Constituents? This will be a candid conversation with outgoing Arlington County Chair, Libby Garvey, and also her counterpart, the Alexandria Mayor, Justin Wilson. Advance Arlington is thrilled to partner with George Mason University and Agenda Alexandria to elevate this important discussion on how local governments are evolving to meet the needs of their 21st century constituents. So please mark your calendar and join us on October 9th at Mason Square. We hope that you have noticed a real commitment by Advance Arlington to bring forward new ideas and discussions in interesting ways. We are a volunteer board, and we need your support by becoming a member or a sponsor or both. Your financial support helps Advance Arlington cover operational expenses as well as technical expertise. And for over 70 years, we have honored our commitment to provide neutral and informative programs. We do not advocate, we simply inform. And your financial support by joining as a member for this program year or making a donation on our website ensures that this type of programming endures, that a place for community discourse free of partisanship, free of agenda, remains part of the fabric of our community. Everyone can donate. Great news, right? So no matter if you're sitting here in a chair, if you're sitting here behind the table, or if you are here by Zoom, we will accept your donation, and we will do so with much gratitude. We have Patrick Hope joining us. He is our beloved elected who is joining us this evening. If anybody else is, oh, hello, Tanya. If everybody else is, we would love to be able to recognize you for being here and thanking you. And of course, thank all of you for being here as well. Now on to our program. We are incredibly grateful to have two exceptional moderators for this evening's program. First, Karina Elwood joins us from the Washington Post. Karina has covered news across our region, including the 2021 governor's race, marijuana decriminalization, and national breaking news like the 2022 trucker convoy. We are fortunate to have Karina's expertise as the educational reporter for the Post, and you can catch up on her recent articles discussing youth mental health, substance use, and Arlington's new cell phone storage pilot program. Karina will be moderating our school board debate, which will feature all of our current candidates, James Vell Rives, Paul Weiss, Kathleen Clark, and Zuraya Tapia-Hadley. So we did numbers for speaking order, and we will start with all the way on the end here, and we'll work our way back up here. Every candidate will, as you will hear from the ground rules, have an opportunity to answer every question that is presented tonight. So welcome, Karina. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the candidates for sharing your time with us tonight. And then, of course, we are really excited to have Jay Fazette join us to moderate our county board forum. And I'm sure nobody knows Jay, or perhaps You remember Jay from his time as the chair of the county board, or maybe before that as the director of the Whitman Walker Clinic of Northern Virginia. Perhaps you know him as the president of the Virginia Municipal League, or maybe as the county board member who spearheaded our community energy plan. But by show of hands, how many of you know Jay as an avid cyclist who for the past 4 years has cycled across Europe with his friends from our German sister city? Anyone? Nobody? Okay. How about knowing Jay as Tessa's dad? Tessa is an energetic 75-pound St. Bernard Golden Retriever. Nobody? Okay. How about Jay as an avid gardener whose yard was recognized nearly 20 years ago as the backyard habitat winner? And now, this is going to make some of you very jealous, a certified rainwater garden with stormwater offset. Anybody know that? Okay. All right, last question. How many of you know how Jay got here? Because they have downsized, he and Bob have downsized to 100% EV car. Anybody guesses how Jay got here? Thanks, Jay. Thanks for providing your expertise tonight. And thank you to Audrey, Madison, Juan Carlos, Julius, JD Spain for joining us this evening as well. We will hear from them a little bit later. Tonight's debate will begin with the candidates for school board, as you can see them seated here, followed by a short break, and then we'll move seamlessly into the second part of the conversation this evening, which is the county board debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement as well as a closing statement. And this is a job interview, right? So most of our time is going to be spent with you guys and the questions that you have because you will be their perspective and voice. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer every single question presented, and a 15-second warning will be given before the time allotted has elapsed. If you have a question for the candidates, what we're going to ask you to do is just line up right here, and we will give you a microphone so you can ask your question directly. We've previously obtained questions for our friends who have joined us from Zoom, and we will include and integrate those questions into tonight's program. So last and certainly not least, I want to thank John Beistat, who is the architect for our program tonight, Jean Broyhill and Jill Shank, who hold all things Advance Arlington together, Karen Bate for her tremendous communications, Daniel Sanchez for his fantastic technology expertise, and everybody who serves on the Agenda Arlington board. And so with that, Karina, if you don't mind, I turn it over to you. Thank you all.
Thank you all for having me here tonight. Thank you, candidates, for joining us. This is exactly what I love to do, which is talk about Virginia education, particularly Northern Virginia education. That is what I cover at the Post. I cover Arlington, Alexandria, Loudoun, Fairfax County Public Schools, as well as the State Department of Education and anything else that's really exciting that happens in Virginia schools, which happens never, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just get started. I'll start with Mr. Weiss, if you want to start with your 1 minute opening introduction.
Thank you. I'm also a recent Arlington teacher, and I just retired from APS this July, and I feel like my experience as a recent Arlington teacher bring a unique and much needed perspective to the school board. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm James Vell Rives. I've lived in Arlington 25 years. My wife Carmen and I have a senior at Wakefield and an 8th grader at Gunston. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm serving my 6th year on the School Health Advisory Board. I previously served 6 years as a county election officer. I'm not very athletic, but I stepped up and I was an assistant soccer coach for 8 seasons with the Arlington Rec League. I'm running for school board because I value public education. And too many good teachers and students and families are leaving APS. And this while half of county spending happens in our schools. Substance abuse is out of control, and there's not enough respect for teachers or students. If elected, I will bring experience and common sense to the table so that students and teachers can succeed.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathleen Clark, and I'm a lifelong Arlingtonian, and I am a proud APS graduate. I have 3 children in APS. I have 1 in elementary, 1 in middle, and 1 in high school. 2 of my children are neurodiverse. They're autistic. And my 3rd student tested gifted in every subject. So my children truly represent the broad spectrum of needs in APS. My motivation for getting involved began years ago. Having witnessed firsthand the difficulty navigating this system, particularly for students who learn differently and for English learners. By profession, I'm an auditor, and I inherently ask a lot of questions to better understand context. This helps improve decision quality. I also come from a retail background, and I'm oriented to solve problems. These skill sets, combined with my working knowledge of APS through my leadership as the Special Education PTA president, the vice chair of the strategic plan, and as a former CCPTA liaison, are much needed on the school board over the next 4 years.
Thank you. Hi, Zuraya Tapia-Hadley. I'm a 20-year Arlingtonian, and my husband Ross and I settled here in Arlington precisely because of the high quality schools. And we now have 2 boys, and 1 in 5th, 1 in 6th grade. I'm running because as an immigrant, bilingual, bicultural parent, I see too often how there are folks in rooms making consequential decisions about our kids' futures that do not reflect the entire Arlington community and county. So I am privileged to move in both worlds, in communities that are working communities, as well as those rooms where decisions are taken. So I hope to be a voice for all of them. I bring negotiations and management skills from a 20-year career as a lawyer in 2 countries, as an advocate, advisor to Fortune 10 companies, to 2 different Virginia governors. And I hope to bring those skills in working collaboratively, negotiating through tough policy issues and decisions. And most importantly, I want to listen. I want to bring empathy, competence, and trust to the school board. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We're going to now move to the question portion of the evening. So if anyone in the audience has a question, I'll ask that you please just come and form a line here, and I can pass the microphone down and we can go through some questions. In the meantime, I'll start off with a question that was submitted over Zoom, and we'll start with Mr. Rives. And that question is, what are you doing or plan to do to address anti-Semitism in Arlington public schools? We'll go ahead and start there.
Well, I think that this question would best be addressed if we had a consistent policy of zero tolerance for bullying. I think if any student is bullied for any reason at all, their identity, religious, sexual, nationality, ethnicity, anything, that should not be tolerated. When I say not be tolerated, there need to be negative consequences. It's good that we have a culture of reconciliation. I think that's excellent, but that should not replace negative consequences for the person for the student that is engaged in bullying. I think that would be the best way to combat any kind of singling out of groups for negative attention or harassment.
I really believe this begins with inclusive practices. Inclusive practices mean just that. Like, we are thoughtful and intentional. And honestly, there's no better place to have these kinds of discussions about community, about what that looks like, about differences and commonalities. I do think that there is opportunity for that in schools, to have those discussions. That is part of what brings us together, what makes us unique. As a parent of a child that was really bullied at school at Swanson. I can attest to the fact that when you don't have inclusive principles, really, it impacts children for life. We are still dealing with those repercussions. And so when you think about how our students are handling their feelings and being attacked for who they are and what they believe, we really need to think about how we're handling that as a community. And this takes more community collaboration than just our schools.
Thank you. I think, first of all, as a school board member, I do think the school board has an important role in this, in that although we do not manage operations, we do set, I think school board members set a tone for culture and for a way of being in this county and building a community. I do think any and every elected official has a responsibility in that respect, and I very much would take that on. In terms of practically how to help address these issues of bias and prejudice, I think education is the most important part, and that means really, this is where my background in working in federal policy comes, and building stakeholder engagement comes into play. Stakeholder engagement means truly connecting people where they are, and it's an individual person-to-person conversation starts there. Additionally, I have experience through the Latino Jewish Caucus in the US Congress, having worked with them to both train advocates, and I was trained by early in my career in terms of how to advocate for the Latino community, very much following practices that were put in place by the Jewish community and strategies. So that is how in life that's come together, and I hope to continue to emulate that in other ways.
Thank you. There's nothing worse. I'm an Arlington parent as well, and there's nothing worse than sending your child to school and fearing that they're going to experience bullying. In this case with anti-Semitism, I've had it happen in my school, and what we've done is we use both methods. We immediately address the bully, the person doing the bullying, and that has to happen. And it's hard, and teachers need to feel the support of the administration in order to do that. And sometimes that's very iffy. And so a teacher, sometimes has to put themselves on the line and expect support. We also believe in using restorative justice. Students don't want to hate each other. And if they sit down with each other and get to know each other, we can end this.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This next question was submitted, and this is one that I think most of you will be really excited to answer. I saw this as a point in many of your campaign websites. How do you plan to address the ongoing and consistent budget gaps on the school side?
So the budget crisis that we're in has to do with the fact that we spend more than we have. In the last couple of years, we have used our reserves to fill in that void. As an auditor looking at systems end to end, we need to sort of shake that money tree, figure out where we have extra money in there. A lot of the budgeting has been done in a way where we're saying, okay, we think this department needs X dollars. Well, how do we know that? How are we measuring that? What questions are we asking to determine what they actually need in that budget to address that? Is it impacting instruction? All of our budget issues should align with the strategic plan. That is our guiding principle. That is what we should be marching towards. Those are what the community has determined to be our priorities. And if something does not match or align to those priorities, we need to think really hard about how we're spending money on that within the budget.
We have a structural issue, structural deficit, which means we're starting this year, we're consistently spending more than we have, right? Anyone who manages a household knows that that is no way to run a household. So to address this, it's not just about searching for additional revenue, because we do have to take very seriously our responsibility to Arlington taxpayers. But it is about putting together, starting with step one, a budget of needs, taking a really hard, realistic look to how we build our school budgets, starting with educators and staff, because our kids' learning conditions are teachers' working conditions. And that means both supporting educator staff, as well as from a facilities standpoint, looking at which facilities are actually in dire need and posing a threat to our kids' health. Kids can't learn if they're not healthy. So that is how I would start. And then from there, my experience working in public with public officers and in government has given me skills to hopefully work also very closely with county board members to talk through the needs of the APS.
Thank you. So right now, our budget priorities are just a little bit, well, a lot out of whack. We have staff making decisions about classroom money. And if you ask a surgeon how to solve a problem, they'll recommend surgery. If you ask staff how to solve a budget problem, they'll come at it from a staff point of view. And we need to have the point of view strictly in the classroom with the people who are in the classroom and in the buildings. We also need to realize that bonds are not magic money. And I feel like our school board relies too much on bonds and doesn't think about the debt service that comes with those bonds. And that debt service cuts into money that goes into the classroom. So we need to be smart and wise and efficient with our budget priorities. And efficiency begins in school buildings in front of the students.
Fiscal health is our most urgent issue right now. Our budget is increasingly strained, and we must not take away from the students or the teachers. I am not above asking the county board for even more money. Now, when we all say county board, that means Arlington taxpayers. And if we're going to ask for more money with a straight face, we have to get our own house in order first. And that means we've got to shift current spending to strengthen instruction in the classroom, the gym, on the stage, or outdoors. A major source of our structural budget deficit is the capital improvement program. And we've made huge construction commitments. There's no going back on those. But for now, I want us to hold off on additional new projects, focus instead on upgrading and maintaining our current buildings. And I also want to find ways for all of our capital projects to attract more competitive bids without sacrificing safety, transparency, or quality of the work.
Thank you all. I wanted to check and see if there were any additional questions in the audience. I can come to you with the microphone. Yes. Go ahead and state your name and your question.
Link Cummings. In order to put in perspective, what are the 3 defining characteristics you would like to see in our school system? If you can, one word for each of the 3 characteristics.
Can we explain each characteristic or just the 3 words? I think number 1, which we have a great deal of, commitment. The best educators, the best schools are that because everyone in the building is committed to each other, which leads me to the next one, community. We often talk about, different schools acting independently across the system. And I think we, at least a couple of us are aligned in that we want to create more harmony and harmonization in what is provided to students across schools. So community. And finally, I think ambition. We should be ambitious. We have an incredible school system and we should not cut ourselves short. We should be looking to see how every single student in our system can realize their full potential because we have everything that we need to achieve that.
Thank you. First, that was great. You had the misfortune of having to be the first one. We all got to take notes. So my 3 are smaller class size, less micromanagement from the central office in school buildings, and of course, a teacher vote on the school board.
Three words: I'd like to see excellence. I'd like to maintain the excellence we have in the work of our students, the performance of our staff, administrators, and classroom teachers. Second word, diversity. I love and want to foster the diversity of ideas and perspectives and cultures and all kinds of students and families that we have in APS. And the last word, I'd say joy. I think this encompasses some of what my fellow candidates have mentioned, but I just love the joy in APS of students learning and enjoying each other and teachers enjoying their work. And I've just had a blast with my children going through APS now K through 12. And I want everyone else to share that too. And I'd like to see it across the board for all students.
Inclusion, collaboration, and success. Success looks different for every single student. We have students that have significant needs and challenges in their life. And that success is going to look really different than some of our students that are going to Ivy League schools. And we need to accept and recognize that we need to aim for that too. Like, we need to meet them where they are and bring them along on the journey. Collaboration. The only way we're going to get there is working together, not only as a community, but back and forth from our central office to our administrators, to our educators in the classroom. As an auditor, I look at interdependencies in everything that I do to sort of bring that seamless line through. And I would lead that way as a school board member. Inclusion, because there's nothing more important than inclusive practices in our schools. And I see that with my own children and their friends who learn differently and need to have that support of the community behind them. And the only way you do that is through inclusion.
Thank you all. Any other questions in the audience? Okay, let's start here. Go ahead and say your name and your question.
My name is Lee Corey, and I'm not a product of Arlington Public Schools, but I grew up here, went to private school. And one of the things that was enriching was that the community came into the schools, different corporations, different occupations, parents with different backgrounds, and worked volunteer with all of us. Would you consider, and how would you start bringing that kind of excitement to the school? How would you start getting the community and the corporations that we have here in Arlington involved in our schools?
All right. Well, as you know, I've just finished again teaching 22 years in Arlington. We do have community and corporate involvement in our schools. We welcome all companies, and we have partnerships with different corporations. At HB Woodlawn, where I taught, we were in Roslyn and the Roslyn Corridor and the Roslyn Corporate Association. We had a great partnership with them. We also had a partnership with the private schools in the area as well. So we welcome all, Arlington Public Schools, I think everyone will agree, has been very welcoming to input from the community and having community people help us teach our children.
Something I'd like to see continue and grow to that effect is having community members visit the classrooms and interact with the students. When they have someone that's in their community, maybe a family member or someone that's working in a field that's related to the subject matter, that's just so good on so many levels for them to see how what they're learning is going to be applied someday, and see that people really do this, after they leave school. I'd like to find ways, I'm thinking out loud here, but I'd like to find ways to make it easier for people to volunteer in the classroom on one-off situations, not like a room parent, but to somehow streamline it so that teachers can have a guest come in and spend this kind of time with the students.
We have extraordinary programs already at the Career Center. So we have our technical programs. We have, how many of you are familiar, just by show of hands, with the PEP program? Okay, the PEP program is one of the coolest programs that we have, and it does employment, training, and preparedness for students with disabilities. They work, many of them are now employed with Jake's. There's Jake's Ice Cream in Falls Church, and Jake's Popcorn, which is also there in Seven Corners area. We have some great programs. We need to have more of them. So as community members, it's really important that people step up and offer these types of opportunities, not just for the students that are going to Harvard. We need them for the students who may wind up living in group homes and with other living arrangements in their life. It is critical that we support our students with disabilities just as much as every one of our other students in APS.
Yeah, I would say that I also want to highlight the Arlington Community High School, who has non-traditional students. And so that is a great population that could be being plugged into our companies and local businesses. So I think there's a rich opportunity there. The Career Center has been mentioned. And what's wonderful about Career Center is that there are about 900 or so part-time also students there that do, or students that do part-time training there. And it's not just corporations that have internships or work programs there, but also labor unions who do pre-apprenticeship programs with them. And I would even venture not just let's look at corporations, let's look at companies, let's look at local businesses, and let's look at government. We're across the river from Washington, D.C. I think that could be a great opportunity for kids to visualize, because it's hard to be what you can't see. So I definitely support internships and continuing training programs. And finally, I would just also add, from a budgetary standpoint, I'd love to, as a school board member, work more with the county to figure out how we can have major corporations settling here, support our local budget. Sorry. Okay, that's not me. So we are actually running short on time, and so we cannot take any more questions, but you do have an opportunity for your 1-minute closing remarks. So we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Rives.
I'm different. After 20 years of only Democrats winning school board elections, I think it's fair to say that I am the unconventional candidate tonight. But I am not a stranger. I know Bethany and Mary and Miranda, and I would be so excited to work alongside them and any one of my fellow candidates tonight. I think we could make a dream team for APS. I hope you can see that too, and I respectfully ask that you make me one of your 2 votes for school board. And if I have your support, I need your help to get the word out. Most voters don't follow local issues as thoroughly as you do, and we've got to reach them. There are many ways you can help me, so please go to my website to volunteer and contribute. It's rives4sb.com. Thank you.
I absolutely love our school system. I graduated APS ready for success, and I want the same for every student, particularly for those who are historically left behind. I want our students to graduate APS being career or college ready. I'm an experienced candidate with years of advocacy efforts to drive change for our most overlooked learners. Taking experiences as an advocate, listening to the community, and having working relationships with folks in schools and central office, knowing who to contact to ask questions and influence changes will help me provide guidance and oversight for APS on day 1. As an auditor, my experience in planning, asking the right questions, and digging deep has equipped me with the skills to look at end-to-end processes, and I have experience analyzing billion-dollar budgets. I hope to serve you and our greater community as one of your 2 new school board members in January. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank Advance Arlington for bringing us together, and for all the great legacy of work that you have historically, bringing different parts of our community together to have tough discussions. I think that's such an important work. It's been my life's work. Community engagement has been not just a passion of mine. It's what I do every day. It's what I've done for the last 20 years. It's who I am, not just what I do as well. So I hope to extend that ability to bring different groups together to inform public policies. In APS, I hope to bring a unique voice to the school board, reflecting the entire community of families, educators, and staff within APS. I do have a track record of shaping policies in this way by bringing together community information, experts, as well as political actors in the arena. And yet I know that we don't always have the answers, and I won't expect to have the answers, but I will listen. We ask our kids to do their homework. As a school board member, I can commit to you that I would do that as well, and I would love to have your support. Thank you so much.
So because I'm a teacher, I was naively taken aback when after announcing my candidacy, someone asked me for my platform. And I said to myself, platform, I'm a teacher, I'm running for school board. But of course, they were correct in asking for that. And I hope some of my answers gave you an idea of my platform, but also if you go to my website, you'll see some very specific items on there that I think that we need for improving the schools. I'm also a parent of two graduates from W&L who both struggled and had successes in school. And one of the reasons I'm running is the deep gratitude I have for their teachers throughout their APS experience, and also for the support staff in those schools, custodians, cafeteria workers, secretaries who all had a smile for them and supported them, and the bus drivers who were the first people to greet them. They were maybe a little nervous. You got a nice smile from the bus driver, and then the last people to say goodbye to them. So that's why I'm running to support teachers and building staff. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for participating today. Thank you all for having me. We really just scratched the surface on education issues. And so I look forward to hearing more of these conversations, and hopefully we'll be covering two of you all on the board next year. Thank you so much.
So thank you to our candidates. Thank you to Karina, who did an excellent job moderating this debate. And what we're going to do is just take a 2-minute break. Don't go home. Get a snack. Come back, and we'll start the second part of the evening. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. So where you'll sit as well. Oh, yeah. So sorry to grab it. I know.
Be surprised. Got a basketball with you. All right. What number are you? Whoa, I'm not ready. Carlos. Good. All right, so you got your order. Your first, second, third, and fourth. All right. So I mean, a minute is like no time. So obviously, watch this guy. I will go over more than a few seconds. I will try to make it quiet so we don't. I mean, a minute is no time, but we only have time for the second question. All right. Thanks, everybody. All right, if you can wander back to your seats, please. We're going to get started. All right, come on back. Devanshi, we have till 8:30, is that right? So if somebody could make sure that by 8:25, I know we only have 5 minutes left and we can go to the final 1 minute statements. Okay, that works. That's great. Keep me honest there. Get closer to the mic. Okay. All right. In fact, there is a second mic there. Okay. One of the differences, it's 1 minute, 1 minute each for their opening, one for their closing, 1 minute for every response. That's not a lot of time. But this is the gentleman that is the timekeeper, and we will hold you to it, just to be able to get in even 7 questions along the way. That would be good. I will turn to you. I will bring a mic to you. If you want to raise your hand, let me know you have a question. I'll only be able to pick a handful of people from the audience, but try to come up with a good question worded as a question. Okay, so thank you all for running. It's a week of debates. Here we are today at Advance Arlington. So we're going to jump right in. 1 minute each, and you're moving down the line towards me. Audrey?
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me to this forum. I'm Audrey Clement, the independent candidate for Arlington County Board. As a 20-year Westover resident, longtime civic activist, and past member of the Transportation Commission, I'm running for county board because it has pushed harmful policies, including excessive taxation and missing middle upzoning. Earlier this year, the county manager reported that he could balance the budget without a tax hike. Yet county board adopted a budget, including a tax rate hike, that increased the average annual tax and fee burden by $541 or 5.1%, which is double the average annual rate of inflation. I also oppose the so-called missing middle ordinance that the county rammed through in 2023, despite major impacts and the fact that it will provide no affordable housing. The only way to stop the unaccountable Democratic Party machine is to stop re-electing it. Vote Clement for county board on November 5th.
Hello. My name is Juan Carlos Fierro. I am running for the Arlington County Board because I believe that the Arlingtonians, the residents of Arlington, deserve a different perspective. Why I brought the basketball? Well, when I went to college and played basketball at Division I school at George Mason University. I was able to get a scholarship. I was able to get an education. I was able to learn what is teamwork. I was able to know what's being able to work hard every day by exercising, lifting weights, and practicing 2 hours a day. And also at the same time, I was able to know what are the tournaments like the NIT and the NCAA. You have a choice between 4 candidates tonight, and
Juan Carlos, I'm sorry, your time is up. A minute is not very long. Sorry, and hold the mic up close.
Hi, my name is Madison Granger. Today's 9/11, so I want to start by just recognizing Arlington's emergency services personnel and recognizing the selfless work that they do. My husband and I are fortunate to own a condo in Green Valley. We're both health nuts, environmentalists, and we're both products of military families. I lead a free weekly fitness class for disadvantaged girls in our community, and I've also coached for Girls on the Run at Dorothy Ham Middle School. I'm a bridge builder. When I was an NCAA student athlete representative, I helped coaches, athletes, and administrators find common ground on complex, heated issues. I'm a candidate for the Forward Party, which was founded by Andrew Yang. Forwardists like me look at systems. In Arlington, we have a one-party system, and that means that those who aren't party loyalists aren't represented as well, and we end up with divisive policies like missing middle that embroil us in lawsuits, and I think that we can do better as a community.
Good afternoon, good evening, Advance Arlington. I'm Julius J.D. Spain Sr., and it's a pleasure to be back here with you. 15-year resident of Arlington County, 3 adult-age children that have all gone through Arlington Public Schools, retired Marine Corps combat veteran of 26 years, former diplomatic assignment at Brussels, Belgium, former civil rights leader here at NAACP in Arlington. And my life has been filled since the age of 18 of being a public servant. I look forward to the day that I sit on the county board and represent you. I'm going to ask for your #1 vote, because at this time in our society, we need individuals that's going to bring this community together, work together in unity, work with our school board members, work with our community stakeholders, and make sure that we have our Arlington that's thriving, that's innovative, and moving forward into the future. I look forward to the questions, and thank you again for being here. And thank you, Madison, for recognizing September 11th. It is a very humble and reverent day that we should all take a pause and think about.
Thank you. Now, are there questions in the audience? I have a few online that have been submitted. Yeah, sure. One over here.
Well, you guys heard me talk about the importance of educating our students with disabilities. Tell me what your plans would be for employment opportunities for this really important part of our population that is totally underserved.
And so let's start with Juan Carlos, since Audrey went first. Just talking and see if it's working.
Hello. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to agree with a lot of the points that Juan Carlos made, which I think were well made, that partnerships with our schools and local businesses make us stronger. I think in addition to potentially, incentivizing that in a tax-based way, it's also just a really positive thing in the community that they get, making sure that APS families know that those businesses that are willing to work with our students and bring them on board and give them opportunities, that's a really positive association. And I think that one of the best things our schools can do is prepare students to be ready for the workforce. And I know that there's extra challenges in that for students that have various kinds of disabilities. So I'd love to explore partnerships, and it's something I would love to learn more about and support as a priority for the county.
Great question. And as a combat veteran who has a disability, I take this area very seriously, especially at a time when persons with disabilities are our highest unemployment rate in America. So what will I do? We already have a disabilities commission. However, what I'm been made aware of is that a lot of times those recommendations that come out of those commissions aren't being let's say we could do more. So when I get on the board, I want to make sure that that disabilities commission is robust, that the folks that are on those commissions are people that understand the many facets of disabilities arenas, whether it's those with neurodiversity, which has a high opportunity in the Intel space, working with regional stakeholders like ARC of Virginia and NAMI. We need to really do more for our persons with disabilities, essential housing. It goes on. So on day one, I'll be ready, and I'll make sure first that disabilities commission is fully staffed.
Well, I think that's an excellent question. I'm not prepared for it. I don't have a prepared answer, but I do believe that county board has a specific role to play, as Julius pointed out, and that is to have an involved disabilities commission. Now, I haven't served on that commission. I served on the transportation commission, And I can say that for 3 years, it operated as a rubber stamp. And based on recent actions by the county board to dissolve its own Human Rights Commission, which did take independent action from time to time, I can see that this model that the county is promoting of rubber stamp commissions is not the way to go. It certainly is not the way to go with the Disability Commission. So if I get elected, I'm going to review the mission statement of all the commissions, including the Disability Commission, and I'm going to see if there are ways that I can encourage independent action on the part of the members.
All right, thank you. I'm actually going to ask a question from the online group. There were 3 or 4 regarding the missing middle, or EHO. I think we've all heard of that. It's now part of county policy. So with that in mind, someone entering the board next year, what is your approach? What are the top priorities? 2 things maybe that you would do in regards to that policy over the next couple of years?
That's a good question. I would say my take on missing middle is we need to revise and monitor. We know that it was a very controversial thing in our community and that a lot of people are still upset. Obviously, we have an expensive lawsuit we're still fighting as a county about that policy. And a lot of the people who were opposed to missing middle felt that there were real concerns to infrastructure, to environment that weren't addressed. So I think as a county, making sure that we're following up, looking at the data and giving a good hard look at our own efforts and revising as we go. If we are falling short of our vision or of the vision that the policymakers had when they wrote the policy, then we need to adjust it. I think that was, so 1 is revise and monitor, and 2 is rebuild trust with community leaders, civic association leaders, and find ways as we're revising and monitoring with them that we can understand their needs and maybe tailor the policy by neighborhood if need be for its success.
Great question. As many of you may know, I was one of the first advocates for expanded housing options, then called missing middle. And it's in the courts right now, so I don't want to get in front of the courts, but I'll tell you what, I'm not going to waver on finding more adequate housing or building out adequate housing in Arlington. Arlington is the 2nd highest educated county, city in America, and we need to be innovative. And we can find ways to make sure we leave no one behind at a time when we know housing not only is a human right, but we have a housing shortage in America and in Arlington. So you have my commitment to go back, speak with the communities, figure out what went wrong. But I will tell you what, we have to learn to compromise as a community. I look from the past to where we are and where we're going. Reflect upon the past, know where we are today, but where do we want to go in the future? I'm an empty nester now in a 2,700 square foot home. My wife and I are tired of going up and down stairs. What's next for us? We want to be able to stay here and age in place, but we also want to make sure early career professionals have a home to start and work right here in Arlington. You have my commitment on that.
Hello? Okay. So I oppose EHO missing middle as a revenue generating cash cow that will not redress the effects of exclusionary zoning and will not provide starter homes for moderate income residents. Missing middle will inflate land values and real estate taxes, drive out existing minority residents, and accelerate gentrification of Arlington neighborhoods. In July 2024, plaintiffs who sued Arlington County testified in court that the county had done none of the impact studies required by state law for countywide rezoning. The solution I want is to convene a task force of stakeholders to consider an alternative zoning scheme offered by the Laboratory for Architecture in 2023 to rezone neighborhood by neighborhood rather than wholesale.
I don't agree with missing middle. I think that we definitely need affordable housing. Missing middle, the only thing is makes more expensive. The land is more expensive. Therefore, all the minorities, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans are kicked out of Arlington, and also retirees. But we have to listen. We have to learn to listen to the residents of Arlington. We have to be able to listen to the people with fixed income. We have we also have the lawsuit I attended the lawsuit. And one of the things is that the county just did the minimum studies in reference to approving missing middle. We need to do more than that, especially in this important topic.
Question out here, Marjorie.
I would like for you to reflect on what value you think there might be in having county and school employees able to actually live in Arlington, and what you would be willing to do to have salary scales that would make it possible for them to do that.
Thank you, Marjorie, for that question. You know, Arlington, we just passed a $1.65 billion budget for this calendar year, fiscal year. And you asked a question that's near and dear to my heart. We have to get to the place whereby in the budget, I believe, working with schools, that we can help both our county employees and our teachers simultaneously, especially when it comes to housing. Since the primary and even during the primary, we've lost so many teachers and first responders and people simply because they cannot afford to live in Arlington. I know we have some areas of stipends and grants and home ownership programs. Actually, there's a home ownership program that's supposed to be released by the county. Was supposed to be last December. Here we are in September, it's not here yet. But I'm always going to look at ways to incentivize and make sure we can keep that conduit, that village. We need that continuity in our school systems and in our county government with our employees. And so you have my commitment to work hard on that each and every year.
Yeah, well, missing middle was promoted as a way to promote workforce housing. And it's workforce housing that our teachers and other county personnel require because of the prohibitive cost of land in this jurisdiction. So since missing middle will clearly be unaffordable, according to the NAACP, only 20% of their membership could possibly qualify right now for a low-end missing middle unit. So clearly that doesn't work. What might work are what I recommended earlier, rezoning neighborhood by neighborhood based on simple to understand floor area rules, area ratio rules as recommended by the Laboratory for Architecture that would provide bonus density for developers who did construct affordable housing. Also promote office to residential building conversions, invest in community land trusts, and restore the partial tax credit for renovation of multifamily dwellings, which County Board repealed in 2021.
I support a grant to policemen, firefighters, teachers, and not only a grant, but also a grant with a mixture of a loan so that they can live in the county. But if we say, like Mr. Spain says, that there's no crime in Arlington, it's going to be very difficult to do that. But I support giving our first responders, our policemen, grants so that they can live in the county. And I think that we will be able to do that if we are able to fix the budget, the school budget. The school budget is one, and second, the amount of money that the county gives the metro. Therefore, we will have leftovers to be able to fix, not only giving out the grants, but also trying to fix our mental issues that we have, not only in the county, but all around.
Thanks for this question. And I think we need more housing in Arlington. I said that last week at the Civic Federation Forum and I said the exact same thing. We want our police officers and our teachers for it to be possible for them to live in our community. And you bring up salary. And I know in recent years that the county board has a higher salary now. And part of that is because you have to live in the county as a county board member. And it's, not reasonable to underpay county board members for their work and expect that they can afford living here. So I think that concept does apply for our other staff members. Right now, we have such a high turnover rate. And if we can absorb some of the costs of turnover, if we can reduce our turnover, that unlocks savings that could go towards, folks have talked about grant programs. I think there's creative partnerships with nonprofits, public-private partnerships that can be involved in solutions here. It's a tough issue, but I think it is one that the county board should prioritize.
Yes. Madison.
Hello, hello.
Madison last week at the Civic Federation raised an interesting point about frugality. And effectively there was you guys were 3-1 in terms of concerns about the tax increases and whatnot. Could you all maybe identify 3 items that you could consider to help reduce the tax increases that we've experienced in the last year?
Yes. On April 20th, the board adopted a $1.65 billion budget that includes a 5.1% effective tax rate increase. This is about double the annual 10-year rate of inflation. The driver for these tax rate increases are the gimme groups that dominate the county's budget hearings every year, demanding ever more money as a percent of the budget. The biggest abuser is the so-called affordable housing lobby that demanded that the county up its annual contribution to the Arlington Affordable Housing Investment Fund from $15 to $20 million overnight. As a result of this excessive demand, the county was forced to impose a tax hike. These gimme groups don't estimate the number of residents who will be driven out of the county due to escalating taxes, nor do they explain why it's okay to put some residents out of their homes to provide housing for others. If elected, I will seek to reduce the tax rate by eliminating pork and scrutinizing the handouts extended to gimme groups in the annual budget charade.
We can use the leftovers, like in October, November of each year, to reduce the tax rates. We are going through some hard times. Everyone is going through that, and the county needs to be able to simplify and to reduce the tax burden on the taxpayers. At the same time, I was surprised that last time that we had a debate, my distinguished opponent said that 7.5% tax rate is not a big hike. When inflation is between 3 and 4%, 7.5% for some people is a very big deal, especially when they are thinking about either buying food or buying medicine. And I have talked to those taxpayers, those Arlingtonians here in Arlington.
I think the biggest thing that comes to me is that savings that we can gain through automation of processes. In March, Chief Penn spoke with the county board and their working group meeting about the police department was faced with a really tough budget situation. And for the first time in recent history, I think they had to decrease their level of service, but they found a creative way to do it. They, for crimes that were not presently happening, but were reported after the fact, like something was stolen from a vehicle, they were able to implement an online process. It was a slight decrease in experience for a community member who doesn't get to work with a live police officer when they're reporting that crime, but I think it was a reasonable way to use new technologies and automation to save money without, getting at the core services. And I think there's other opportunities for us to use automation in our permitting processes and other county processes to streamline them and make them more efficient and save costs.
Thank you for the question. So we've just brought on another auditor for Arlington, and I think that's going to be critically important as we look at efficiencies within our current budget. This budget we just had, it was the first time in 5 years that we had any level of increase. And for the record, it was 6.4%. So I think we're going to what Madison just talked about, we're definitely going to have to, I'm going to look at efficiencies within the budget, look at the reports coming out from the auditor. If you ask me what's a tangible thing we can look at right off the street, right off the stop at the beginning of things, is how many times we pave our streets, right? That asphalt, that's an environmental issue. In my regard, I'm like, I live in a cul-de-sac that's been repaved like 10 times in 15 years. Why? I don't know. But the last thing I just want to say, we don't have time tonight for alternative facts. And I just also want to make it clear for the record. I've never stated there's no crime in Arlington. Never stated that. Right? I don't know where that's coming from. And so facts do matter here. And I just want to make sure the record is clear as we move forward, because that's not going to be tolerated, especially as a person who's African-American, as a Mexican wife.
All
When we start talking about African-Americans and folks of that,
Time's up, JD.
thank you very much. It's only 1 minute.
Other questions? Good. Mr. Carlos, and keep your comments to oneself, right?
This is a question that relates to and quality of life for all of us. What kind of priorities do you put on preservation of tree canopy in this county? And what efforts would you make to preserve what tree canopy we have left?
Okay. Juan Carlos.
So the issue here is that most of the negotiation with the developers have been done by the manager and the staff of the county board. We need to be able for the board members to be able to get more involved. The employees of the county are giving breaks to the developers in reference to the canopy, the tree canopies that we have. It's very important that we keep the tree canopy that we have and to make it grow. If they have a big project, they should be able to negotiate, that they have to pay to get rid of those trees that have been there for years. So my proposal will be for the board members to get involved on those negotiations and not to just leave it to the staff of the county.
So I live like I said, in a condo community in Green Valley, and I'm really fortunate to be in a street that is lush with trees, and we love our trees. So this question resonates with me. I understand it's a quality of life issue. I think that we do as a county try to avoid the tearing down of trees. I was just playing pickleball recently with the Arlington Pickleball Club, and I was at the Walter Reed Community Center, and they were talking about new plans there for courts and how the courts that were going to be built and changed were going to be around the existing trees. And I think we do a good job prioritizing that. We need to continue doing that where we can. It's not possible to never tear down any trees, because we do need to be able to continue moving forward as a community. But I think that in times that we do it, there should be a high offset ratio, that in order to do that, you need to replace it with, not necessarily 1-to-1, and try to make good on that as best as you can, and continue the Tree Equity Fund through Eco Action Arlington. I think that's a great initiative as well.
Thank you for the question. We are falling short when it comes to resources and money that we're putting in the Tree Equity Program. That fund is already dried up for this year. I can tell you in places like Green Valley, and there's other places around Arlington, depending on where you live, there's a 10-year life expectancy less because of the lack of tree canopy. And so Arlington, when we talk about, climate resiliency and being leaders in this area, we first got to take care of home. We need to put more trees up in certain areas around Arlington. We have a study going on right now in the county. That report has not come back out to see where these spots are, but we need to resource it. We need to put money in there to make sure we can get the trees put in these neighborhoods, and I'm committed to that. Also, being a person who got 3 trees put in my yard a couple years ago, they're blooming well. We need to do more of that, right? And be innovators in how we're going to adapt and put trees where they need to be in this community. And don't let funds like the Tree Equity Program go dry within the second quarter of the fiscal year. We got to do a better job.
Environmental sustainability, particularly preservation of mature tree canopy, is a top quality of life issue that should be prioritized in both the budget and policy. To that end, County Board should, 1, stop missing middle upzoning, which will reduce Arlington's tree canopy lot coverage requirements by half. 2, stop approving site plans that permit clear-cutting wooded areas. 3, stop clear-cutting wooded areas along Potomac River tributaries as part of the so-called stream restoration projects. 4, stop permitting the destruction of mature tree canopy on public property, like the wanton destruction of an entire grove of hardwoods behind Cardinal Elementary School in Westover, and plans to clear cut one remaining tree stand in Roslyn to construct a boathouse facility.
Sorry. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. I'm going to ask the next one from online, and then you will get the last question, I believe. So there was a question online about the arts. It was about the assumption in it is, what will you do to stop and reverse the number of arts organizations leaving Arlington or closing up? And I'm going to reword it to say, how would you describe the value of the arts and the state of the arts in Arlington County?
I think I start first. Thank you. On 4th of July, I was at the Douglas Park Parade, and I had the privilege of talking with one of the heads of the ETC. I think it's Educational Theater. I'm going to mess up the acronym, but I had a great conversation with him about the value of arts in the community. And I personally know parents whose children are in the summer camps, and they do Shakespeare plays, and it's so enriching. And I think that I know he at that day expressed some frustration in the funding that our arts programs get. I think especially when they're involved in summer care for children, that is one of the richest ways that we use our arts. So we should continue to support that. I think that there's opportunities for the county board to do more here, but it also is, realistically, the county board has hard budget decisions. I think arts are important. And I hope that we can continue to prioritize them. And it just, county board members have to make hard decisions.
My daughter went to Parsons School of Design. Art runs through my blood. It's in my family. We in Arlington need to do more. We just lost a theater over in Crystal City area. Art is therapeutic. Art is innovative. Art is warm. And it just needs to be a part of our everyday being here in Arlington. When I was campaigning, I advocated strongly and told folks, I think we need a cultural center here in Arlington. There's been a lot of talk about it. We have a lot of empty buildings. I would love to have a centralized cultural center for the arts to bring everyone together. I think we can do that. So it plays a really important part here in our community for our youth, especially in the mental health space, right? So you have my commitment to do more in that arena. I know we've had some shortfalls with budget there, but it needs to be weaved in as a critical part of our community through policy shaping.
Well, actually, I appreciate what Julia said, that his daughter is an art student graduate. I am also. In fact, my undergraduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania was in fine arts. And before that, my father was a PhD in art history, and he taught for several years. But regarding the need for an art center, I thought we already had one. It's called the Arlington Arts Center, and it's the corner of Wilson and Monroe. At least it's, my understanding is that it functions as an art center for some people. Now, it may not accommodate everybody, but we have it. It's there. It's a great facility. We also have an Arlington Art Truck. And I myself serve on the Arlington Neighborhoods Advisory Committee, which is collaborating with people who run the Arlington Art Truck, which is a mobile facility that migrates around the city. We also have the Lee Arts Center, which is due to shut down. So I would like to get a pledge from everybody on this dais that should they get elected, they will preserve the Lee Arts Center.
Have to talk to them individually.
I support the arts 100%, but again, we go back to if we are able to afford it. We need to be able to fix our big issues, like the budgets at the school, the budgets for Metro, to be able to have leftovers so we can have enough for the arts, mental health, and other things that we need. And I am all for it, but again, we need to put our house in order so we are able to afford all the other things that we want and that we need.
Thank you. We have one more question, then we're going to go to your final statement.
Hannah Dannenfelser here, and wanted to ask I'm wondering if you can share your perspective on the top 1 or 2 public safety issues in Arlington and how you would address them.
Great question. In my opinion, we at the county board need to do more to make sure we adequately fund our police department and make sure that our community engagement division is built out in a very robust way. A few administrations ago, during the Obama administration, I should say, they put forward a great model on 21st century policing. See, how you get in front of public safety is you need to involve our police department and have them in the communities. Right now, we don't have enough police. The chief has stated that, and that's a societal issue, but we need to incentivize that to the best way we can to make sure we can bring those police officers here, and even working with the sheriff's department, because he's open, I believe, to doing something along that line and getting our law enforcement officials in those communities to meet with our people. Sit on the porch, go to the houses of worship, go down to the 7-Eleven. We need more humanity here in public safety and stop pitting each other against each other, but build out that police department, and I think we can do it. That's where I want to start at.
So according to the Arlington County Police Department, the overall crime rate in Arlington County increased 6% in 2023 as compared with 2022. Reported crimes against persons increased 8.3%. Reported crimes against property offenses increased 4.8%, with marked increases in robberies, burglaries, extortion, and fraud. Crimes against society increased 14.5% compared to 2022, with the primary driver being drugs and narcotics. The increase in crime correlates with the de facto defunding of the police. For example, in 2023, Police Commissioner Andy Penn reported 100 unfunded law enforcement positions. In the District of Columbia, the situation is even more dire, with traffic fatalities going up dramatically due to the lack of police to enforce the traffic laws. But DC is just a drive across Key Bridge, and absent traffic enforcement, traffic fatalities will increase here as well.
I have to agree with Audrey that the figures are extremely high. I just don't understand why the board takes its time or doesn't do anything in reference to bring more policemen to the county. If they don't want to raise salaries, they can do grants so that they can live here. We live near a place where anything can happen anytime. It's into our best interest to have the policemen, the firefighters, and teachers living in the county. The figures are amazing. And if you hear the news every single day, there's always an issue going on, either in Pentagon City, either at the mall. So therefore, we need to be ready and prepared.
So The workforce management of our public safety departments, and by that I mean managing turnover and recruitment. Right now, we have a really young police force. I think it's 32% of the police force is served under 5 years. And when we're short-staffed and we have, I think, at least as of a couple of months ago, 70 or more vacancies, we have officers that are working overtime, and that's a liability because one, they're not at their sharpest if they're working longer than they want to be working. And two, we risk turnover becoming a vicious cycle because they're overworked and they leave for another police force. So I think investing in fixing the turnover and recruitment problems, continuing with that. You asked for two, and the second one I would say is opioids, education efforts and collaboration with neighboring jurisdictions. How can we help try to move the needle on opioid abuse, which is driving crime, and collecting medications that are not being used from folks?
Thank you. We're now to the last 1 minute for each. And according to the rules, as I read them, it's the reverse order of the opening. So JD, you will begin and we'll go that direction.
Advanced Arlington, it has been a pleasure. I want to go for 2 minutes. Look, proven leadership, effective leadership, integrity, judgment, decisiveness, and a lifelong Democrat. That's who I am. 31 of the 54 precincts in the Democratic primary, I won, not by myself, but by a community of folks who believed in my message. I'm not going to waver on public education. I'm not going to waver on public health. I'm not going to waver on environmental sustainability, and I'm not going to waver on attainable housing. What we need to do is remove this divisiveness from our community. We need people that are going to listen. Many of you know I came out of the NAACP, but this is not a job for an NAACP civil rights person. This is for leaders, people who are going to listen and bring everyone to the table. We got to find ways to compromise. I'm up for the job. I'm going to be ready on day one. I hope you cast your vote as #1 JD Spain for County Board beginning on September 20th. God bless you and thank you for this event. Thank you.
One-party rule is not healthy and vibrant democracy. It's led to divisive policies and frustration across our community. I, like many of us, am tired of broken politics. I believe that we need more than two parties at the national level, and we need more than one party with a real seat at the table here in Arlington. I'm a new face in Arlington, but I do have experience. I help the NCAA community navigate difficult issues with passionate opinions on every side. And that took the kind of analytical thinking and pragmatic compromise that yields consensus. I think that I'd like to be a part of a change to bring Arlington back towards consensus-driven decision-making, to ensuring that we have community input at the center of our policy and not as an afterthought. That's why my slogan for my campaign is Shaping Arlington's Future Together. My name is Madison Granger. I'm a forward party candidate, and if you want to support my campaign, you can go to madison4countyboard.com. And thank you, Advance Arlington, for a great event.
Thank you.
The county cannot continue to have a 5-0 vote. You need new people. You need people of action. You need people that does not go to the county board and vote the same than everybody else. Susan Cunningham just voted opposite to get rid of the Human Rights Committee. That's a good start. You need to send people that are going to help her in reference to a 3-2 vote. When you have a 3-2 vote, you are still in the minority, but you are able to negotiate with the other board members. If you want change, I am your change. Juan Carlos Fierro, my web page is www.votefierro.com, and I am looking forward to the election on November the 5th.
The choice in this year's county board race is clear. Elect a Democrat who either supports the county's tax and spend agenda or will be forced to go along with it once elected. Believe the myth that a 5.1% tax hike was needed to balance the budget, or accept the fact that you are being tax gouged to appease the county's favorite gimme groups. It's your choice. Either swallow the lie that missing middle will remedy racial wrongs, or accept the fact that it will force existing minority homeowners out of their homes and make it even harder for others to qualify for a mortgage. If elected to county board, I won't push wasteful housing programs at the expense of libraries, parks, and public safety. If you are dissatisfied with the direction of county board, now is your opportunity. Vote Clement, independent, for county board on November 5th, because county board needs more than a rubber stamp.
Okay, folks, I served on that board that they're all trying to get on for a while. It's about, land use. It's about budget. It's about citizen engagement, working with all of you. It's not about the salary. Their hourly wage will not be that large. So let's give all 4 of these people a great round of applause for seeking that job. Thank you all. Thanks for coming. Mingle if some of the folks here may want to ask you some follow-up questions, but thank you all for coming. Devanshi.
And can we please give a round of applause to Jay and to Karina for doing an amazing job tonight moderating our panel. And then, of course, thank you to each one of you for coming to this conversation and this debate. Thank you for being so engaged. Thank you for being part of the conversation. We hope you will continue the conversation with us, particularly at our next event on October 9th. Again, just a reminder, it's called Governing in the 21st Century. Are local governments in sync with their constituents? On behalf of Advance Arlington, thank you for coming tonight. We hope you will consider becoming a member or a donor. And on behalf of the program committee, if you have an idea or topic that you would like for us to consider for our programming for this year or even next, please reach out to us on our website. We look forward to hearing from each one of you. Thank you again.